6. Rural Development. Thiruvalluvar. Only the tillers of the soil live by the right, the rest form their trained and eat only the bread of dependence. After studying this chapter, the learners will understand rural development and the major issues associated with it, appreciate how crucial the development of rural areas is for India's overall development, understand the critical role of credit and marketing systems in rural development, learn about the importance of diversification of productive activities to sustain livelihoods, understand the significance of organic farming in sustainable development. Introduction. In Chapter 4, we studied how poverty was a major challenge facing India. We also came to know that the majority of the poor live in rural areas where they do not have access to the basic necessities of life. Agriculture is the major source of livelihood in the rural sector. Mahatma Gandhi once said that the real progress of India did not mean simply the growth and expansion of industrial urban centers, but mainly the development of the villages. This idea of village development being at the center of the overall development of the nation is relevant even today. Why is this so? Why should we attach such significance to rural development when we see around us fast growing cities with large industries and modern information technology hubs? It is because more than two-thirds of India's population depends on agriculture that is yet to become productive enough to provide for them. One-fourth of rural India still lives in abject poverty. That is the reason why we have to see a developed rural India if our nation has to realize real progress. What then does rural development imply? What is rural development? Rural development is a comprehensive term. It essentially focuses on action for the development of areas that are lagging behind in the overall development of the village economy. Some of the areas which are challenging and need fresh initiatives for development in rural India include development of human resources, including literacy, more specifically female literacy, education and skill development, health, addressing both sanitation and public health, land reforms, development of the productive resources of each locality, infrastructure development like electricity, irrigation, credit, marketing, transport facilities, including construction of village roads and feeder roads to nearby highways, facilities for agriculture research and extension, and information dissemination. Special features for alleviation of poverty and bringing about significant improvement in the living conditions of the weaker sections of the population, emphasizing access to productive employment opportunities. All this means that people engaged in farm and non farm activities in rural areas have to be provided with various means that help them increase the productivity. They also need to be given opportunities to diversify into various non farm productive activities such as food processing, enabling them better and more affordable access to healthcare, sanitation facilities at workplaces and homes, and education for all would also need to be given top priority for rapid rural development. It was observed in an earlier chapter that although the share of agriculture sector contribution to GDP was on a decline, the population dependent on this sector did not show any significant change. Further, after the initiation of the reforms, the growth rate of agriculture sector decelerated to about 3% per annum during the 1991 to 2012, which was lower than the earlier years. In recent years, this sector has become volatile. During 2014 to 15, the GVA growth rate of agriculture and its allied sectors was less than 1%. Scholars identify declines in public investment since 1991 as the major reason for this. They also argue that inadequate infrastructure, lack of alternate employment opportunities in the industry or service sector, increasing casualization of employment, etc., further impede rural development. The impact of this phenomenon can be seen from the growing distress witnessed among farmers across different parts of India. Against this background, we will critically look at some of the crucial aspects of rural India, like credit and marketing systems, agricultural diversification, and role of organic farming in promoting sustainable development. Credit and marketing in rural areas. Credit. Growth of rural economy depends primarily on infusion of capital from time to time to realize higher productivity in agriculture and non-agriculture sector. As the time gestation between crop sowing and realization of income after production is quite long, farmers borrow from various sources to make their initial investment on seeds, fertilizers, implements, and other family expenses of marriage, debt, religious ceremonies, etc. At the time of independence, moneylenders and traders exploited small and marginal farmers and landless laborers by lending to them on high interest rates and by manipulating the accounts to keep them in debt trap. A major change occurred after 1969 when India adopted social banking and multi-agency approach to adequately meet the needs of rural credit. Later, the National Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development (NABARD) was set up in 1962 1982 as an apex body to coordinate the activities of all institutions involved in the rural financing system. The Green Revolution was a harbinger of major changes in the credit system as it led to the diversification of the portfolio of rural credit towards production oriented lending. The institutional structure of rural banking today consists of a set of multi agency institutions, namely commercial banks, regional rural banks, cooperatives, and land development banks. They are expected to dispense adequate credit at cheaper rates. Recently, self help groups have emerged to fill the gap in the formal credit system because the formal credit delivery mechanism has not only proven inadequate but has also not been fully integrated into the overall rural, social, and community development. Since some kind of collateral is required, vast proportions of poor rural households were automatically out of the credit network. The SHDs promote thrift in small proportions by a minimum contribution from each member. From the pooled money, credit is given to the needy members to be repayable in small installments at reasonable interest rates. By May 2019, nearly 6 crore women in India have become a member in 50 lakh women SHGs, about 10 to 15,000 rupees per SHG and another 2.5 lakhs per SHG as a community investment support fund CISF are provided as part of renovating fund to take up self-employment for income generation. Such credit provisions are generally referred to as microcredit programs. SHGs have helped in the empowerment of women. It is alleged that the borrowings are mainly confined to consumption purposes. Why are borrowers not spending for productive purposes? Rural banking, a critical appraisal. Rapid expansion of banking system had a positive effect on rural farm and non-farm output. Income and employment, especially after the Green Revolution. It helped farmers to avail services and credit facilities and a variety of loans for meeting their production needs. Famines became events of the past. We have now achieved food security, which is reflected in the abundant buffer stocks of grains. However, all is not well with our banking system. With the possible exception of commercial banks, other formal institutions have failed to develop a culture of deposit mobilization, lending to worthwhile borrowers, and effective loan recovery. Agriculture loan default rates have been chronically high. Why farmers fail to pay back loans? It is alleged that farmers are deliberately refusing to pay back loans. What could be the reasons? Thus, the expansion and prohibition of rural banking sector has taken a backseat after reforms. To improve the situation, it is suggested that banks need to change their approach from just being lenders to building up relationship banking with the borrowers. Inculcating the habit of thrift and efficient utilization of financial resources needs to be enhanced among the farmers too. Box 6.1 The Poor Women's Bank. Kudumbashri is a women oriented community based poverty reduction program being implemented in Kerala. In 1995, a thrift and credit society was started as a small savings bank for poor women with the objective to encourage savings. The Thrift and Credit Society mobilized rupees 1 crore as thrift savings. These societies have been acclaimed as the largest informal banks in Asia in terms of participation and savings mobilized. Agricultural market system. Have you ever asked yourself how food grains, vegetables, and fruits that we consume daily come from different parts of the country? The mechanism through which these goods reach different places depend on the market channels. Agricultural marketing is a process that involves assembling, storage, processing, transportation, packaging, grading, and distribution of different agricultural commodities across the country. Prior to independence, farmers, while selling their produce to traders, suffered from faulty weighing and manipulation of accounts. Farmers who did not have the required information on prices prevailing in markets were often forced to sell at low prices. They also did not have proper storage facilities to keep back their produce for selling later at a better price. Do you know that even today, more than 10% of goods produced in farms are wasted due to lack of storage? Therefore, state intervention became necessary to regulate the activities of the private traders. Let us discuss four such measures that were initiated to improve the marketing aspect. The first step was regulation of markets to create orderly and transparent marketing conditions. By and large, this policy benefited farmers as well as consumers. However, there is still a need to develop about 27,000 rural periodic markets as regulated marketplaces to realize the full potential of rural markets. Second component is provision of physical infrastructure facilities like roads, railways, warehouses, godowns, cold storages, and processing units. The current infrastructure facilities are quite inadequate to meet the growing demand and need to be improved. Cooperative marketing in realizing fair prices for farmers' product is the third aspect of government's initiative. The success of milk cooperatives in transforming the social and economic landscape of Gujarat and some other parts of the country is testimony to the role of cooperatives. However, cooperatives have received a setback during the recent past due to inadequate coverage of farmer members, lack of appropriate link between marketing and processing cooperatives, and inefficient financial management. The fourth element is the policy instruments like assurance of minimum support prices for agricultural products, maintenance of buffer stocks of wheat and rice by Food Corporation of India, and distribution of food grains and sugar through PDS. These instruments are aimed at protecting the income of the farmers and providing food grains at a subsidized rate to the poor. However, despite government intervention, private trade predominates agricultural markets. The need for government intervention is imminent, particularly when a large share of agricultural products is handled by the private sector. Agricultural marketing has come a long way with the intervention of the government in various forms. Some scholars argue that commercialization of agriculture offers tremendous scope for farmers to earn higher incomes provided the government intervention is restricted. Emerging alternate marketing channels. It has been realized that if farmers directly sell their produce to consumers, it increases their incomes. Some examples of these channels are Apni Mandi, Hadaspar Mandi, Ritu Bazaars, and Uzavar Sandis. Further, several national and multinational fast food chains are increasingly entering into contracts, alliances with farmers to encourage them to cultivate farm products of the desired quality by providing them with not only seeds and other inputs but also assured procurement of the produce at pre decided prices. It is argued that such arrangements will help in reducing the price risk of farmers and would also expand the markets of farm products. Diversification into productive activities. Diversification includes two aspects. One relates to change in cropping pattern and the other relates to a shift of workforce from agriculture to other allied activities and non-agricultural sector. The need for diversification arises from the fact that there is a greater risk in depending exclusively on farming for livelihood. Diversification towards new areas is necessary not only to reduce the risk from agricultural sector but also to provide productive sustainable livelihood options to rural people. Much of the agricultural employment activities are concentrated in the Kharif season, but during the Rabi season, in areas where there are inadequate irrigation facilities, it becomes difficult to find gainful employment. Therefore, expansion into other sectors is essential to provide supplementary gainful employment and in realizing higher levels of income for rural people to overcome poverty and other tribulations. Hence, there is a need to focus on allied activities, non farm employment, and other emerging alternatives of livelihood, though there are many other options available for providing sustainable livelihoods in rural areas. As agriculture is already overcrowded, a major proportion increasing of the increasing labor force needs to find alternate employment opportunities in other non-farm sectors. Non-farm economy has several segments in it. Some possess dynamic linkages that permit healthy growth, while others are in subsistence, low productivity propositions. This the dynamic subsectors include agro processing industries, food processing industries, leather industry, tourism, etc. Those sectors which have the potential but seriously lack infrastructure and other support include traditional home-based industries like pottery, crafts, handlooms, etc. Majority of rural women find employment in agriculture while men generally look for non-farm employment. In recent times, women have also begun looking for non-farm jobs. Animal husbandry. In India, the farming community uses the mixed crop livestock farming system. Cattle, goats, fowl are the widely held species. Livestock production provides increased stability in income, food security, transport, fuel, and nutrition for the family without disrupting other food processing producing activities. Today, livestock sector alone provides alternate livelihood options to over 70 million small and marginal farmers, including landless laborers. A significant number of women also find employment in the livestock sector. Poultry accounts for the largest share with 58%, followed by others. Other animals, which include camels, asses, horses, ponies, and mules, are in the lowest rung. India had about 300 million cattle, including 108 million buffaloes in 2012. Performance of the Indian dairy sector over the last 3 decades has been quite impressive. Milk production in the country has increased by about 10 times between 1951 to 2016. This can be attributed mainly to the successful implementation of Operation Flood. It is a system whereby all the farmers can pool their milk produced according to different grading, and the same is processed and marketed to urban centers through cooperatives. In this system, the farmers are assured of a fair price and income from the supply of milk in urban markets. As pointed out earlier, Gujarat state is held as success story in the efficient implementation of milk operators, which has been emulated by many states. Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Punjab, and Rajasthan are major milk producing states. Meat, eggs, wool, and other byproducts are also emerging as important productive sectors of diversification. Box 6.2 Tamil Nadu Women in Agriculture Tanwa. Tamil Nadu Women in Agriculture Tanwa is a project initiated in Tamil Nadu to train women in latest agricultural techniques. It induces women to actively participate in raising agricultural productivity and family income. At a farm women's group in Tiruchirappalli, run by Anthonian Mull, trained women are successfully making and selling vermicompost and earning money from this venture. Many other farm women's groups are creating savings in their group by functioning like mini banks through a microcredit system. With the accumulated savings, they promote small scale household activities like mushroom cultivation, soap manufacture, doll making, or other income generating activities. Fisheries. The fishing community regards the water body as mother or provider. The water bodies consisting of sea, oceans, rivers, lakes, natural, aquatic ponds, streams, etc., are therefore an integral and life giving source for the fishing community. In India, after progressive increase in budgetary allocations and introduction of new technologies in fisheries and aquaculture, the development of fisheries has come a long way. Presently, fish production from inland sources contributes about 65% of the total value of fish production, and the balance 35% come from marine sector. Today, total fish production accounts for 0.9% of the total GDP. In India, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Tamil Nadu are major fish producing states. A large share of fish worker families are poor. Rampant underemployment, low per capita income earnings, absence of mobility of labor or other sectors, and a high rate of illiteracy and indebtedness are some of the major problems fishing community face today. Even though women are not involved in active fishing, about 60% of the workforce in export marketing and 40% in internal marketing are women. There is a need to increase credit facilities through cooperatives and SHGs for fisher women to meet the working capital requirements for marketing. Horticulture. Blessed with a varying climate and soil condition, India has adopted growing of diverse horticultural crops such as fruits, vegetables, tuber crops, flowers, medicinal and aromatic plants, spices, and plantation crops. These crops play a vital role in providing food and nutrition besides addressing employment concerns. Horticulture sector contributes nearly one third of the value of agricultural output and 6% of gross domestic product of India. India has emerged as a world leader in producing a variety of fruits like mangoes, bananas, coconuts, cashew nuts, and a number of spices and is the second largest producer of fruits and vegetables. Economic conditions of many farmers engaged in horticulture has improved and it has become a means of improving livelihood for many underprivileged classes. Flower harvesting, nursery maintenance, hybrid seed production and tissue culture, propagation of fruits and flowers, and food processing are highly remunerative employment options for women in rural areas. Though in terms of numbers, our livestock population is quite impressive, but its productivity is quite low as compared to other countries. It requires improved technology and promotion of good breeds of animals to enhance productivity, improve veterinary care and credit facilities to small and marginal farmers and landless laborers would enhance sustainable livelihood options through livestock production. Production of fisheries has already increased substantially. However, problems related to overfishing and pollution need to be regulated and controlled. Welfare programs for the fishing community have to be reoriented in a manner which can provide long term gains and sustenance of livelihoods. Horticulture has emerged as a successful, sustainable livelihood option and needs to be encouraged significantly. Enhancing its role requires investment in infrastructure like electricity, cold storage systems, marketing linkages, small scale processing units, and technology improvement and dissemination. Other alternate livelihood options. The IT has revolutionized many sectors in the Indian economy. There is broad consensus that IT can play a critical role in achieving sustainable development and food security in the 21st century. Governments can predict areas of food security and vulnerability using appropriate information and software tools so that action can be taken to prevent or reduce the likelihood of an emergency. It also has a positive impact of the agricultural sector as it can disseminate information regarding emerging technologies and its applications, prices, weather, and soil conditions for growing different crops, etc. Though IT is by itself no catalyst of change, but it can act as a tool for realizing the creative potential and knowledge embedded in the society. It also has a potential of employment generation in rural areas, Experiments with IT and its application to rural development are carried out in different parts of India. Box 6.3 Adoption of Village by Parliamentarians. In October 2014, the Government of India introduced a new scheme called Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. Under this scheme, members of India's parliament need to identify and develop one village from their constituencies. To begin with, MPs can develop one village as a model by 2016 and two more by 2019, covering over 2,500 villages in India. According to the scheme, the village can have a population of 3,000 to 5,000 in the plains and 1,000 to 3,000 in the hills, and should not be MPs owned or their spouse village. MPs are expected to facilitate a village development plan, motivate villagers to take up activities, and build infrastructure in the areas of health, nutrition, and education. Sustainable development and organic farming. In recent years, awareness of harmful effect of chemical-based fertilizers and pesticides on our health is on a rise. Conventional agriculture relies heavily on chemical fertilizers and toxic pesticides, which enter the food supply, penetrate the water sources, harm the livestock, deplete the soil, and devastate natural ecosystems. Efforts in evolving technologies which are eco-friendly are essential for sustainable development, and for one such technology which is eco-friendly is organic farming. In short, organic agriculture is a whole system of farming that restores, maintains, and enhances the ecological balance. There is an increasing demand for organically grown food to enhance food safety throughout the world. Benefits of organic farming. Organic agriculture offers a means to substitute costlier agricultural inputs with locally produced organic inputs that are cheaper and thereby generate good returns and investment. Organic agriculture also generates income through exports as the demand for organically grown crops is on the rise. Studies across countries have shown that organically grown food has more nutritional value than chemical farming, thus providing us with healthy foods. Since organic farming requires more labor input than conventional farming, India will find organic farming an attractive proposition. Finally, the produce is pesticide free and produced in an environmentally sustainable way. Popularizing organic farming requires awareness and willingness on the part of farmers to adapt to new technology. Inadequate infrastructure and the problem of marketing the products are major concerns which need to be addressed apart from an appropriate agricultural policy to promote organic farming. It has been observed that the yields from organic farming are less than modern agricultural farming in the initial years. Therefore, small and marginal farmers may find it difficult to adapt to large scale production. Organic produce may also have more blemishes and a shorter shelf life than sprayed produce. Moreover, choice in the production of off-season crops is quite limited in organic farming. Nevertheless, organic farming helps in sustainable development of agriculture, and India has a clear advantage in producing organic products for both domestic and international markets. Do you think food and non-food items cultivated using organic farming methods will be cheaper? Box 6.4 Organic food. Organic food is growing in popularity across the world. Many countries have around 10% of their food system under organic farming. There are many retail chains and supermarkets which are accorded with green status to sell organic food. Moreover, organic foods command higher price of around 10 to 100% than conventional ones. Box 6.5 Organically produced cotton in Maharashtra. In 1995, when Kisan Mehta of Prakruti first suggested that cotton, the biggest user of chemical pesticides, could be grown organically, the then director of Central Institute of Cotton Research, Nagpur, famously remarked, "Do you want India to go naked?" At present, as many as 130 farmers have committed 1,200 hectares of land to grow cotton organically on the International Federation of Organic Agriculture Movement standards. The produce was later tested by the German accredited agency Agrico and found to be of high quality. Kisan Mehta feels that about 78% of the Indian farmers are marginal farmers, owning about less than zero point 0.8 hectare but accounting for about 20% of India's cultivatable land. For such farmers, organic agriculture is more profitable in terms of money and soil conservation in the long run. Conclusion. It is clear that until and unless some spectacular changes occur, the rural sector might continue to remain backward. There is a greater need today to make rural areas more vibrant through diversification and dairying, poultry, fisheries, vegetables, and fruits, and linking up the rural production centers with the urban and foreign markets to realize higher returns on the investment for the products. Moreover, infrastructure elements like credit and marketing, farmer friendly agricultural policies, and a constant appraisal and dialogue between farmers group and state agricultural departments are essential to realize the full potential of the sector. Today, we cannot look at the environment and rural development as two distinct subjects. There is a need to invent or procure alternate set of eco-friendly technologies that lead to sustainable development in different circumstances. From these, each rural community can choose whatever will suit its purpose. First of all, then we need to learn from and also try out when found relevant practices from the available set of best practice illustrations, stories of rural development experiments which have already been carried out in similar conditions in different parts of India to speed up this process of learning by doing. A recap. Rural development is quite a comprehensive term, but it essentially means a plan of action for the development of rural areas which are lagging behind in socio-economic development. There is a need for improving the quantity and quality of infrastructure in rural areas such as banking, marketing, storage, transport, and communications, etc., to realize its true potential. Diversification towards new areas such as livestock, fisheries, and other non agricultural activities is necessary not only to reduce the risk from agriculture sector but also to provide productive, sustainable livelihood options to our rural people. The importance of organic farming as an environmentally sustainable production process is on a rise and needs to be promoted. End of chapter 6.